Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We are so excited to have you. I'm going to introduce to you Sam Lendez from the Mushroom Club of Georgia. He's going to be giving an amazing workshop on how to cultivate oyster mushrooms without using any sterile technique, which is kind of a big deal because usually with sterile technique, you need all sorts of equipment and a little bit of luck on your side in the hopes that things don't go awry. But with this technique, it just rock and rolls, and you should be able just to cultivate oyster mushrooms straight out of these bags using the newspaper cat litter. That's pretty awesome. And yeah, I will give the floor back to Sam. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. And I'll break up these oyster bags for you.
Oh, great. Thank you. I've got about 40 of those little plastic containers. Hopefully everyone who has one, who wants to do one, has a container. If not, we'll see about sharing, or maybe can do a second round, just depending on our timing. But I am Sam Landis, Treasurer, Membership Coordinator. Hey, David, they're back there. For the Mushroom Club of Georgia. We have our little booth set back there with a lot of books that you can check out and information about the club, and feel free to ask me any questions. And we lead walks, usually twice a month, March through November. We do workshops in January and February. We're doing shiitake log workshops, so you can drill and grow just like that log that's over there on the counter. And we're also going to be bringing some Julie Beeler from Ohio, or from Oregon, to do a dyeing workshop using wool and silk. Hey, Frank. Okay. If we may not have enough empty tubs for everyone, so you might, maybe if you're in a couple or a throuple, you can share. But this is a really easy technique, and my wife came up with the name of Just Add Water because it's kind of almost that easy. And we'll go through a little bit of how this got developed, and then we'll start doing it. So these are the oyster mushrooms that you're going to be growing. And this little thing here we call pinning, and that's when they just start sticking their little heads out of the bag. And they can go from this size to this size in about 3 days. And you should get mushrooms within 3 weeks. It'll be 3 to 3.5. And this gives you just an idea of how plentiful they can be. And this was developed by a friend of ours from the Puget Sound Mycological Society named Milton Tam, who's a retired microbiologist who lived in Seattle, and he worked on developing technology for third world countries that could be used easily and not break down. And he's a mushroom guy. So he grew different mushrooms. And this is Milton right there. And he was at the pet store one day getting kitty litter because he has cats. And he saw this particular brand of kitty litter, which we'll talk about, yesterday's news, and all it is recycled newspaper. So they just take the newspaper, grind it up, put it in a hot slurry, which actually sterilizes it, and then they send it through the little tubes to make the pellets. And first, to alleviate everyone else's concerns, most inks in newspapers, probably the last 15 years, are soy-based inks. They aren't using any kind of lead-based or any other kind of inks. So you don't have to worry about those. So he was walking through the pet store, and he saw that kitty litter, and he said, hey, that's just cellulose. I mean, it's just paper, which was a tree, and mushrooms love to eat cellulose. So why don't I try using that as a substrate? So he took it home and put it in a bag. And one of the things, it's later in the slideshow, but I'm going to do it now anyway, is if you see professional growers, they often have oyster mushrooms hanging from long tubes from the ceiling with holes punched in them so that the mushrooms grow out of the different tubes. So Milton gets home and says, okay, I'm not going to do a big tube from the ceiling. What do I have that's kind of tube shaped? And then he realized he had something that came every day. It was his newspaper. And this is the newspaper sleeve. And it's just a perfect size, perfect shape, and it's a good way to reuse it. So he added water to his mix, fooled around with different proportions, added some spawn, put it in his bag. And, you can see the mycelium growing. Took a while. Eventually he got some nice mushrooms. So then he was back at the store. Oh, first I have to tell you a sad story. About a year and a half to 2 years ago, went to the pet food store because I was going to get some more yesterday's news because we're doing another workshop, and the shelves were bare. And I talked to the people there, and they're like, oh, Purina has discontinued making yesterday's news. So, of course, immediately my wife and I got in the car and drove around to all the outer suburbs pet food stores to see if we could find some. We still have 4.5 bags at home. But mushroom growers and cat owners really liked this. And so this is a 30-pound bag, and it goes for about $20 at the pet food store. There were people selling these on eBay for like $45 and $50. So my wife Cornelia and I, Cornelia is the president of the club, we then started auditioning kitty litter, because there are a bunch of other kitty litters out there that are recycled paper, but some of them have like a lot of baking soda in them, or some of them have other ingredients. So we probably tried about 6 different kinds of recycled paper kitty litters until we picked this one, which I'll pick up and show you guys in a minute. It's called Exquisicat, and it is the PetSmart home brand. So that's the only place you can get it is PetSmart. But anyway, there we go. So he came back to the store, and he was walking through getting some more stuff for his cats, and he noticed guinea pig food. And he said, that's basically alfalfa, which is lots of nitrogen. Mushrooms really like nitrogen. It helps them grow. So then he kind of changed up his formula a little bit and started adding some guinea pig food to add additional food for the mycelium. And then he started getting mushrooms in 2.5, 3 weeks. So, if you do the shiitake log, which is really great, you're going to get shiitakes in anywhere from usually 9 to 12 months. So 3 weeks is pretty nice. And there are different kinds of spawn. You can get spawn that's grown just on sawdust, because that's what they start with after they do the liquid cultivation. They put the samples in the sterilized sawdust. But then they'll change it and grow it and put it into bags, grain bags. These are usually wheat berries. You can use a few other kinds of grains. And we have found, one, we have really good success with the mushrooms grown on grain. But 2, one of the fun things is once you make your bag, it's going to be solid brown. It's not going to be white, because it's just kind of that, stuff that's wet. But you'll see the little bits of grain sticking on the sides of your bag, which have the mycelium on them. Within 24 hours, you're going to see little strands of mycelium growing from each piece of grain. And within 2 weeks, your bag is going to be solid white. And so it's a much more fun, visceral experience having those little pieces of grain in there. And pretty much the only time that we had a failure on this was we used sawdust spawn, and we used it from a different grower than we usually do. And everybody's bag got the trichoderma, which is the green mold on it. So we had to replace everybody's bag, or we didn't have to, we did replace everybody's bag. But other than that, I mean, we have like, a 99.9% success rate for growing your own mushrooms. And they just keep coming in. Whoo! Well, a lot of it's going to be hands-on and not as much talking. And I know Paul said be ready for 30 people. I think I have 40 containers. So what we're going to do is everybody who just walked in, you're going to get the pleasure of watching other people make the bags. But then depending on our time, we might be able to reuse some of the things and give you a chance to make some, because we have plenty of spawn and plenty of substrate, and we've got a loose box hanging over there. It's so, and on your tables, in front of you, you've got your plastic container, you've got a spoon. Not everybody, we don't have enough spoons and things to go around, so just like kindergarten, you're gonna have to share. And then the little plastic cups are great funnels that we'll show you. Hi, Athena. Sorry, I'm late. You're perfect. And I do want to say that we've probably got 7, 8, 9 Mushroom Club of Georgia members here. So you can also ask them questions, and they'll be happy to tell you how awesome the club is also. And I do have my cards over there that you can either take or take a picture of to visit our website. Joining the club is really easy. It's just click on join, and then you do the PayPal thing. And I'm happy after this is done to be back over in the corner talking about the club. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to set the mic down. So this is our bag, Exquisite Cat, and you're more than welcome. We'll have it sitting so you can come take a picture of the bag. Wow. Technology's amazing. It's kind of heavy, isn't it?
It is. It's a workout.
So what we're going to do is so we are putting the kitty litter in the bowls, and we have 1 cup measures. So what we're going to do is I'll just start randomly picking tables. Don't feel picked on. And it's easier for people to come up, but thank you for the offer. That was very generous of you. So you're going to come up, grab your container, and you've got the little recipe in front of you. So you're going to take 3 cups of the kitty litter. And then we have pre-measured here 2.5 cups of water. You're going to pour the water just on top of the kitty litter, come back to where you're sitting, and you can use your spoon or your fingers. You're slowly going to mix it around because it'll take a good 10 to 15 minutes for it to really fully absorb all the water. And I could see you're jumping ready to go. So we can have up to 3 at a time because we've got 2 cups here and a cup here. So come fill your things and get some water, please. Okay. Thank you for doing that very well. I was a Montessori preschool teacher, and you did as well as they do. Good job. Woo! So I'm going to go over some of the questions that you were going to ask me before you asked me. And then there are a few that somebody already did ask. So this method is basically really good for oyster mushrooms. You can do the white oyster, gray oyster, blue oysters. I've got pink oysters over there. Milton tried it with some other mushrooms and just didn't get as good productivity. One of the things he's done for lion's mane is he has taken the oak wood pellets like you can use for a stove. And then he's put them in, these are special bags. These are special growing bags. They are very heat proof, so they get put in an autoclave, which is like a really fancy pressure cooker. And they're often called unicorn bags because that's the company that makes a lot of them, is a unicorn company. One of the things you'll notice on this bag is this little white patch. Yes. Oh, yes. Wonderful reaction. Thank you. So, this white patch is an air filter because mushrooms need oxygen. They will suffocate. And they breathe in oxygen and they breathe out carbon dioxide. Sound like anybody you know? Oh yeah, they are. We are cousins. But what Milton has done for lion's mane is he'll take the wood pellets and he will put them in one of these open bags, and then he will pour over a big thing of boiling water on top of the wood pellets and let them absorb that hot boiling water. Then he'll add some lion mane spawn and then seal off the bag. And he's gotten some success with that, but you know, they can take like 3 or 4 months to really start growing. So I would just say for what we're doing with y'all, oyster mushrooms are the way to go. And by the way, they're delicious. So that was one question. Next question. So I have a sheet over there, and once again, I think I did sheets for 30 people because that's what I was told. So thank you. It's got the recipe on it. It's my other Vanna. It's got the recipe on it and then the care of your bag. But it is. Just don't get them wet. But I'm going to go through some of the procedures while we're waiting for what you're going to do with your bag. So you're going to fill your bag, and I know it doesn't sound complicated, but we'll give you just a quick example of the good way to use the funnel, because if you put the funnel down here and then put the bag over the funnel facing down. You can scrunch it up. And so then when you're filling your bag, it will slowly do this. And it just helps it keep it stable as you're putting your stuff into it. Some of the bags are very small, some of them are larger. You're not doing that now because you haven't gotten the spawn. Right now you would just take home a nice mushy bunch of kitty litter. So you need the spawn, and then you want the guinea pig food to help. So guinea pig food. We've got another little bag over here. I'll probably get the other bag out of my truck. But you're all gonna come up here again in these perfect straight lines that you did. And you're going to get 1/3 of a cup of guinea pig food and 3/4 of a cup of the spawn. You're gonna take it back, mix it all in your stuff, and then that's when you're gonna put it in your bag. And it often can be helpful to work with a teammate where someone like holds the funnel and the bag while you scoop, rather than just trying to do it. And trying to think other things you might need to know. Well, I think a lot of the stuff I'm going to tell you is going to be after you're mixing your bags and have your bags full. So some of the bags are very skinny bags, and so when you scoop it in, your bag might be this tall, which can make it, have the tendency to. I've got another one of those. It's 1/3 cups. And so if you don't want to use one of those bags, or you can ask and you can make 2 smaller bags, but no gloves.
I'll take off mine.
Yes. So it's a mushroom hunter man. They don't go anywhere without our knives, except where TSA won't let us go. If any of you have colds and you've been wiping your nose, you do want to wash your hands before you do this. You can give your mushroom a cold. Sure. Okay, now we need the 3/4 cups.
And yeah, I don't know where the 3/4 cup is.
1/4 or 3/4.
That's a 3/4 cup.
This is a
Is this
third.
what you're
We
looking
get a
These
third.
are these are for thirds.
Yes.
And then let me.
Thirds.
That guy says 3/4, doesn't it? 3/4 cup. Because we've got plenty of spawn, so everyone's doing 3/4 cups. And I need
This is 3/4 of a cup.
So you can start filling your bags once you get it all mixed. And it does help if you have one person hold it and let the other person scoop and then trade off. And then once you get your bags filled, don't tie them yet and don't bounce them up and down trying to tamp it really hard. Don't do either of those, please. So the water we used was through a Brita filter, but if you're worried about you don't want a lot of chlorine in your water, but you can fill up a bucket and just let it sit out, or a pot, and let it sit out overnight, and the chlorine will evaporate and dissipate off. And so you can use that water easily. All right. I've got a lot more bags. We just don't have more shoe boxes. So we're going to reuse some shoe boxes if we have time. Yeah. Right. Well, you probably have 10 people who don't have bags. Don't have boxes. So here is an image of the professional growers with the large bags hanging down from the ceiling, and you can see all the clusters. And there are different strains of oyster mushrooms. So, when you, okay, I know this is fun, but I wonder if anybody remembers Cheech and Chong and Sister Mary Elephant. Class. Okay, everyone, I'm going to start telling you a few things about your bags, so you probably want to know and hear that. So once your bags are filled, you're going to lightly, just very lightly, go like that, just to gently let them, and then when you're ready to tie it off, what you want to do is take your thumb and your forefinger and squeeze right at the very top of the substrate. You want to get it so there's no air bubble. So even more, you want to get it just like that, and then twist. Because you want to squeeze it like right there, and now twist it. And you'll see there's like no air bubble on top. Little bit of air, but not a big one. But that's how you want to tie it. You want to get it so that there's not a big air bubble at the top of your bag. Because if you get that big air bubble, a lot of times your mushrooms are just going to grow up that way into that space rather than out.
Is there any rhyme or reason to which pinning spot they pick?
There is not the question was, is there any rhyme or reason to where they decide to pin? Well, a couple of things. There is a half rhyme reason. So when you get your bags home after you've tied them off, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go into your kitchen and you're going to get your paring knife, which is just a thin blade, and you are going to poke your bag like 5 times randomly. You want just little slits in your bag so that they don't suffocate, so that they can have oxygen. So many times where the little slit in the bag is where the pinning is going to start. But there are plenty of times when it'll just be pressing against the plastic and getting ready to go out. And then that's when you get to make a choice. For those of you who might be a little impatient, like me, you can just take your knife and make a little slit right where it's pinning, pushing against the plastic, and let it come out there. The downside of that is then you are making more open spaces that can help dry it out. But, so you get to make that choice. Thank you. And if each table would stack your boxes together and put your things inside the boxes, the spoons and that would be very helpful. So you're going to take your bag home. You're going to gently, lovingly stab it. Just randomly 5 times, just around. It doesn't have to be in a pattern. Doesn't have to be your initials. It's just. But once you have got the little slits in your bag, The next thing you're going to do is you're going to put it someplace dark. And no, at this time of year, it's not good to just go stick it out in the garage. It needs to be between like 65 and 75 degrees. It needs, I mean, they can do it at 60, but, so there are a couple options you have. I know people who put it just under their kitchen cabinet, in their kitchen cabinet. I know people who put it in their pantry. I know people who put it down in the basement. And it doesn't have to be like 24-hour pitch black, but you just want it darker. But the important thing is you want it someplace where you're going to remember it's there. We have a member in our club who had put it in her kitchen cabinet, a little cupboard, and she forgot about it. And so she came in a few weeks later, and she had dried out mushrooms and white spores all over the cabinet. So she took the bag out, she tried to wipe things down a little bit, and she had the kitchen cabinet shelving, which is kind of that metal wire with the white rubbery stuff, around it. So a couple weeks later, she opened her cabinet, and she had little oyster mushrooms growing off the metal wires because the spores were growing on that rubbery plastic stuff. So, but what you're going to do, and one of the reasons I was saying that there, are different kinds of oyster mushrooms is that when they start pinning, so you can see this nice little round cluster of like kind of blue little tiny mushroom heads. But you can also see over here where it's kind of more stringy and looking more kind of like a sea coral or something. So these are two different strains of oyster mushrooms. Well, I had somebody who did the workshop, and then she sent me this frantic email and said, something's wrong with my oysters. They've mutated. They came out looking like this. And so she cut them all off right then and there. And I said, not really mutation, more just a different strain. And, you could cook up those 2 bites if you want. But when you see it starting to press against the plastic or come out of the little slit and you see the little heads, you're going to take it out of the dark spot. So one of the things you want to do is you want to go visit your mushroom every couple of days. Encourage it, but also you're going to get a chance to watch that mycelium spread from those little pieces of grain, and you're going to watch it turn from this kind of brown gray to solid white in 2 weeks. But once you start to see a little bit of the pinning coming out, you're going to take it out of the dark, you're going to bring it upstairs, and you're going to put it on your kitchen counter next to the sink. You want it to have nice ambient light, like in here. You don't want it sitting on the windowsill with bright, direct sunlight going onto it. And then you want to get, let's see, what did he do? He came, okay, he changed something when he came in. All right. Okay. All right. So if you don't have, but most people do, you want to have one of these little spritzers, little spray bottles. Just want to put a little water in that, and twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, just give your mushrooms a little nice mist. Help them stay moist. And okay, what did he do? All right. And then, of course, the next step is to cut them off and cook them. And you'll just take your knife and you'll cut it off right where it's coming out of the bag. And it will often have kind of a thick stem. So then you cut off all the heads and some of the little stems to cook. But then you can take the thick stem and you can slice it really thinly and then just cook it with it. But if you have a lot of them, one of the things I'll do with the thicker stems is you cut them in thin slices, saute them with whatever flavoring you like, and then put them in the dehydrator and you make mushroom jerky. And it's really, really good. So one of the places that we buy our spawn a lot is from a company called Field and Forest, and they're in Wisconsin. Their owner, chief mycologist, has come and talked to our club, and they have really good customer service. They have a lot of interesting strains, and they are just very, very friendly. Field and Forest out of Wisconsin. So once your mushrooms have grown out to a nice size and you've cut them off, so one of the questions that we often get, and I'm guilty of sometimes, is they'll say, so how big do you let it get before you cut it? And I always say, you want to cut it a day before you think it's big enough. Because they're going to be out there and they're going to look great, and you're like, oh, one more day, and they're going to be really big and tasty. And then you come out that morning to breakfast, and your kitchen counter is covered with mushroom spawn. And, if that happens occasionally, that's okay. You can wipe it up. But Cornelia, my wife, who's the president of the Mushroom Club of Georgia, she was leading a workshop where a woman got real excited. Do you want to tell a story?
Hello, everybody. So, this person got excited. She grew like 30 bags at once. And she did it in her living room. And she forgot about the thing Sam said about don't put it in your living space. She ended up having a cough for 6 months. She didn't understand why. She was on steroids. She had x-rays. She had a bunch of tests. And then she was at a workshop with somebody that had also done it. And she said, by the way, Karen, where are those mushrooms? And she said, in my living room. She said, oh my God, do you think I have so one term for this is white lung, actually, because the spores are white. And sure enough, when she stopped doing that, her cough went away. So, and you don't want to do that to yourself. She said I could use that story as a warning. Okay, Dare, here you go.
So a couple more things. After you've harvested your mushrooms, give the bag another nice spritz and put it back in the same dark space. You can get usually up to 3 fruitings from the bag. But often after that third fruiting, the mycelium's kind of tired. So then what you do is you get a couple people together, you get a little more kitty litter and guinea pig food, you make your mixture, and then you take your kind of dried out bag, you cut it in thirds, and that becomes your spawn, and you make 3 bags. And then those will fruit 2 or 3 times, and then you do the same thing, only you got 9 bags, and it starts to get exponential. And we know somebody who did it through, oh, hi, Janet, who did it through like 5 generations. So, and this is a really fun thing to do, like for birthday parties. I mean, it seems a little weird, but it's a fun thing to do, birthday parties, school groups. And actually, we knew somebody who was like, I'm going to do this for a friend's baby shower, and I'm going to time it like 3 weeks before she's due so that the mushrooms and the baby will come out at the same time. So you'll be, and our Mushroom Club, my email address is back there. I would love to see some pictures in like 2 and 3 weeks of your bags so that you can share your success. And I know there's a great speaker coming up. And for those of you who didn't get a chance to make bags because all the shoe boxes were filled, we're going to go to that back corner over there. We'll take all this over there. And for those of you who didn't get a chance to make some, we'll make some back there quietly while the other speaker is speaking. But thank you. This is a really fun thing to do. I really appreciate all your participation. And you're growing your own food. Yes. Woo. Question.
That's very great presentation. Thank you. So you were speaking about the spawn coming out.
The spores.
Yeah. So you're waiting for that perfect day to think about the size, and once the spores hit, is that
The mushrooms are still all fine. You just pick. They're good. But you have a bunch of spores to clean up. And the mushrooms are fine, but after that point, they'll start drying up more. So you want to cook them and eat them right away. Oh yeah, if you don't want to use it to make new bags, put it in your compost pile. And it'll just, the worms will love eating it. And every now and then I'll throw an old bag in there and come back out in 2 weeks and I've got mushrooms in my compost pile. So anyway, thank you, and stick around for the next speaker, and we'll be moving back there.
If you want to continue this at home.